Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And day 3 of the Stage 2 Major has just concluded. Phenomenal matchups once again today, as is tradition here with the CDL. Some more great matches, especially this first one, Dallas versus New York Southerners, we're going to get into, but many other storylines as well, especially the losers bracket ones continuing for some of these teams. Intrigued to take your thoughts in the comment section below. Look, if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Before we get into the games, just wanted to mention this real quick, the YouTube gaming gauntlet, as they say, for Call of Duty comes to an end. It was Black Ops 2 up against COD Mobile. Mobile was winning for a while. Honestly, all things considered, it's a pretty phenomenal game, but it is a mobile game, and Black Ops 2 gets the job done in the end. I think Clayster and some of the other COD guys managed to pump this one up, and well, this was the first matchup of the day. Rokkr versus the Dallas Empire, and what a series this was. Really phenomenal. I mean, it went down to a Game 5, as I pretty much expected it to, but the way we got to the Game 5 certainly was very unexpected, I think. So game number 1, Standy goes massive here early on. I mean, this looked like it was going to be Dallas's to take in the early doors, but Minnesota played such a great fundamental hardpoint game right here, and a few mistakes on the side of the Empire gets the job done for Seattle. I mean, Standy had this crazy 3-piece as well, which is pretty important for their early progression in the map, and well, as you can see, after they win this one, here's Standy's season so far with the Minnesota Rokkr. With Standy, at least, well, before the end of the series, they were 3-0, 10-4 in terms of game records. Hardpoint had kind of been their weak mode. Their search and destroy had been looking very strong indeed, and well, it's the hardpoint where they win the map number 1. Then we go to a search and destroy though, and this is where you're kind of worrying for the Empire. You're thinking, okay, hang on a second here. They've lost to Minnesota last time, a couple of times now in Game 5s. In those series, typically they've been able to win the hardpoints as they've been so good at, and then, well, they get to a Game 5 and they just about lose it. However, this time, it was a different story in the search and destroy. Huke gets an ace early on, but then Minnesota pull out some pretty impressive series of rounds in the search and destroy, but it goes all the way to the final one, and this was a phenomenal round. I believe it was ILLey who actually called this in the end in terms of what this play call was going to be, but round 11 here on the raid doesn't get too much better than this in terms of Call of Duty. 3 versus 3, and Crimsix distracts for long enough at top pool house that Shotzzy and ILLey manage to rotate over to B. They catch Priestahh kind of, well, off guard, thinking that the guys are going to A because that's where Crimsix was baiting. They catch off both the players, and Crimsix gets the perfect timing and accuracy to finish off the job. So a phenomenal clutch factor. I mean, Shotzzy super hyped right here. He has a fantastic finish to that game number 2, and they tie the series up at 1-1, and well, don't go round 11 versus Empire, says round 11 stats. Kind of fitting, really, and this also is a big storyline when we get to the Game 5 of the series. But this control was absolutely remarkable. We talked about that crazy control round a few days ago. Checkmate them in the ILLey versus Scump 1v1, of course, to decide the entire map. But this arguably was even crazier. I've not seen a 0.1 second situation happen pretty much at all. I thought this map was over. I was plugging it into the breakingpoint.gg website as a 3-1 victory here for the Minnesota Rokkr. But well, for some reason, even though there's only 3 lives left on the Empire, they've got like 8 seconds to make it. I mean, it seems like they're almost ego-channeling this in a sense. For some reason, the Minnesota guys all push towards open stairs. They all go down, and you know, well, they lose the round. I mean, with 0.1 seconds on the clock, you can't make this stuff up. All you've got to do if you're Minnesota is not channel that from open stairs and lose all the gunfights. Just, well, back up, play it slow, play for the situation, taking a better position in terms of the gunfights. They lose this round. They clearly lose full a little bit. They end up losing the final round as well, and Dallas go up 2-1. But then we go into the final world, the final hardpoint of the series, and it goes the other way around again. So Rokkr had an absolute breakdown right there, and well, then we go into a checkmate hardpoint. Loony's kind of talking about some of the spawns being somewhat questionable at the very least, but Minnesota Rokkr regain in emphatic fashion. They win this 250-212, and if you're coming into this series telling me that Minnesota are going to win both hardpoints and it's going to a Game 5 and Dallas are going to win it, then well, I would have been like, what's going on here? Surely Dallas would at least take one of the hardpoints. That's usually their bread and butter, but Minnesota looked really good in this, and that is obviously well, a very scary sign for who they are going to be playing tomorrow, that being of course OpTic Chicago. We'll talk about that in a few minutes time. And well, it goes all the way to the Game 5 round 11. This was pretty crazy. Dallas went up 5-3. Minnesota won a crucial offense, and then this final round, honestly, it was so intense. But Priestahh hit a team nade, and we'll have a look at it in a second from his POV, or at least from it in theater perspective. And well, he team nades attached like one of the worst ways for this map to possibly end for them. It looked like we were going to get a crazy intense round, but Dallas managed to get the job done again. They still haven't lost a round 11 so far this season, I believe, as Attach says, one of the most heartbreaking series you are ever going to see. We just threw so hard, says Accuracy, but they did play incredibly well, and this is from Priestah's perspective right here. So as you can see, you're going to throw this nade into the corner, and somehow, even though Attach isn't on his screen, he manages to stick him in the back. I mean, this just happens sometimes where the hitboxes are kind of funky. Maybe it looks somewhat different in theater to what the server saw on their side of things, but really unfortunate scenes for the Minnesota Rokkr. They're usually so good in their Game 5s, and Dallas get the job done in 2 search and destroys to continue on in the tournament. And it must be said, right, when Dallas come to majors, they do just look like a different team, especially in terms of the clutch clutch factor. You could argue this round 11 was a choke, but, you know, at the end of the day, they still managed to win it. They won that raid search and destroy, that raid control, and and the raid search and destroy in remarkable fashion. But, speaking of teams winning in remarkable fashion, let's go on to Atlanta FaZe. They come out versus the Ultra, like, incredibly hot, and aBeZy has an absolutely monstrous series right here. Game 1, he goes 27-13. Early on, FaZe, like, brought out a ridiculous lead on Moscow. They were winning this game by miles, and then, Toronto managed to bring it back to avoid the 100-point club, but FaZe close out 250-114, and aBeZy goes 27-13. I mean, Arcitys, honestly, like, this entire series, he's just kicking his feet up, enjoying the show, as the rest of the boys just go absolutely ham on the map. But the game 2 was certainly a different situation. aBeZy in the very first round again pops an ace. I mean, this was just ridiculous. Comes down right, takes down CleanX. I think Bance was slightly weak from the bomb. He takes down him without too much issue, and then gets the final 2 kills as well, as I will keep playing on screen for you guys right now. But the rest of the map went in a very different fashion, actually. Toronto Ultra came back to play. Certainly, they're honestly really good at this map on raid search and destroy. Despite aBeZy absolutely playing with his food here, takes down Cammy as well to finish off the ace. They actually bring this back very impressively indeed, and Toronto take this map 6-2. So aBeZy actually, he goes 8-6 right here. Cellium drops the donut, as Call of Duty Intel says right here, at Dunkin' Donuts on the Cellium side of things. But he certainly brushes that off as they go into a raid control, and he absolutely dominates the first part of this. One clean retake locks in the control, say FaZe. They move up 2-1 in the series, and then we go to a final checkmate hardpoint as well. And despite Ultra going up massive early on, 105-7, they bring it back to a tied game, and FaZe close it out. And aBeZy once again had a phenomenal map right here. Honestly, this guy has so many engagements, and there's some pros that when I watch them shoot, they obviously shoot incredibly straight, but they'll miss the occasional bullet here or there. aBeZy, I swear he just never misses bullets. It's actually incredible. I mean, Simp is in a similar boat, but it was really aBeZy that came to play this series spectacularly. And he just had an absolute monster of a series. The next player in the lobby was Simp with 65. aBeZy had 91 kills and so many more engagements than anyone else. The type of impact on the map that he has is, second to none, honestly, I think, in the Call of Duty League right now. And Atlanta FaZe, they certainly survived a bit of a scare here in some of those maps. They move on in the winners bracket of the tournament to play Dallas Empire. Could you have guessed it? Maybe no surprises there. The final series I'm going to cover in this video, given that by the time this video goes live, I'll probably be asleep, and New York Summoners versus Los Angeles Thieves will have concluded. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But that was OpTic Chicago versus the Seattle Surge. A must-win, of course, for both of these teams now in the losers bracket. And I felt like, look, now OpTic's back is firmly against the wall. They beat Seattle in a pretty similar series last week, where they had to win it to actually get a chance to come out in the winners bracket. And now they're obviously in an even more must-win series here with their stage major winning hopes on the line. They come out not exactly in the ideal way. There's certainly some questions here about the decisions that OpTic are making in their vetoes. They decide to play raid hardpoint again, which they really haven't been great on. They've lost a lot of close raid hardpoints. They did beat Seattle on it just about the other day in their 3-0 series win, but honestly, they don't look great on this map. Scump doesn't necessarily seem to be great on the hardpoints. Certainly in the other game modes on raid, he's very good indeed, but they do kind of struggle to get things going here. Big P and Little B, that being Gunless and Prestinni, they have a phenomenal couple of maps between them. I think Gunless goes something like 24-11 on the game number 1, and this is really where, OpTic are certainly being tested at this point. They lose a close map 1 where they won the other day against Seattle in a similar situation. With the series going a different fashion for the rest of the series, it does not. OpTic do manage to bounce back and show the composure which we know they have, but they don't always necessarily display in full form. They win this checkmate search and destroy very comfortably indeed, reminiscent of how they managed it just the other day up against the Dallas Empire. And a couple of great rounds right here, as round 11 stat says once again, after losing 2 round 11s in a row on checkmate search, OpTic have gone 6-2, 6-1, and 6-2 again on this map. If they won their round 11s, they would be 7-0 on checkmate search and destroy. And then we go into a control, and this one, it felt like Seattle Surge had an advantage for time, but the offense that OpTic Gaming won really threw the balance back in their favor, and Dashy, having a difficult map on this map just the other day against Toronto, that being yesterday of course, bounces back pretty emphatically here in this map, and certainly in that Garrison hardpoint we are going to look at. So OpTic go up 2-1, and this is kind of what you're expecting from OpTic, right? You expect them to win two respawns in a series and take one of the search and destroys to get themselves over the line at the very least, and they do that again right here. So they definitely came to play that, the intensity seemed to be there for them, certainly, and it was really an interesting pick to me that they decided to go to Garrison hardpoints for the final map of the series, a map that they actually picked. I thought they just let it through the map set, but they actually decided to pick this one, a map which has effectively been their auto veto for a very long time now. As you can see on this map stats as well, I mean, Scump and Formula especially had a phenomenal couple of maps between them. I mean, a 1.69 KD from Formula doesn't get too much better than that. So OpTic managed to take the job down on this one. Once again, I've always talked about for a long time really that Formula and Dashy are so good on raid control. When they do come to play like this, OpTic are a very scary team to beat on this map indeed. And and Seattle get taken down in a close fought fashion, and then we go to a Garrison hardpoint. Now, they haven't played this in ages, OpTic. It's always been the map that they just automatically ban, but lately, clearly, there's been some issues with their map set, right, their map rotation. Their raid hasn't been good, I don't think, to be honest. Their Apocalypse, maybe they don't really want to play that so much, so Garrison, it feels like, is a map that OpTic should be starting to bring it back into their map pool. They decide to do it here, and they get the job done. So fair play to OpTic. I do not think, and I agree with Ben Nassim, and he said this a number of times on the flank, that auto vetoes in, well, respawn game modes are, well, the way to go, because it's so easy. I think just the other day, I mean, Florida were playing up against Seattle or something, I think last night, and Seattle are horrible on raid control. They're like 0-5 on it or something like that, but that's also Florida's auto ban, and they just banned it out regardless, and they might have had a great chance to take that map despite actually losing the control as they did in the end. So OpTic kind of seeming to learn how it's going here, realizing that their map set needs a bit of a shake-up. They bring in Garrison, they get the job done, 250 to 183, and shout out Dashy in this final map as well. There's been a lot of talk about him lately, certainly, okay, yeah, with the XM4 gone, can he be as good as he once was? And well, he was dropping numbers on this map especially. Prestinni says, wanted to give a shout out to him as well, because he played phenomenal this series, showed a lot of fight, I mean, certainly, but well, they can't quite get over the line once again. Thanks, brother, TTP was not missing today. Got to tip it, certainly. And as well, Dylan Envoy says, GG Seattle, we live to fight another day indeed. Scump certainly pretty happy about the situation. They will move on to play Minnesota Rokkr, as we will look at here in just a second, but this was the performance from Dashy. 1.21 in control, 2.0 in the surge, and 1.5 in the hardpoint. I believe he went 33-17 on that final map on the Garrison hardpoint to get over the line for OpTic and keep their hopes alive in this tournament. And as I've said, given the fact that we don't believe the winners bracket team gets an advantage right now, the losers bracket is way more doable than it ever has been before to actually get all the way through it and win the tournament. But Minnesota are not going to be an easy team to get past at all. Octane and co on the Seattle side, they bow after the tournament. The run back was not successful. GG's to OpTic, but they look so much improved. It's kind of unfortunate the run that they had right here. Playing up against OpTic is always a difficult spot in these types of situations. They fall out of the tournament in 8th position right here, earnings $10,000 on the line. CDL points 20 they managed to rack up, but despite so many improvements so far this stage, they couldn't quite put it all together when it mattered here at the major. Falling to OpTic in the rematch, of course, they lost 0-3 the final week of the stage, and then they lost that crazy 3-2 reverse sweep against the Minnesota Rokkr, which stole their chances away of getting into the winners bracket. OpTic, of course, dropped down for the winners bracket and still knocked these guys out of the tournament. But as Dashy says, GG Surge 1-3-1, play Minnesota tomorrow for top 4. I'm sure that's going to be a banger, so much still on the line. I'll discuss Thieves versus the Subliners tomorrow morning. Enjoy to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.